Hello everyone, today we are in Bow Island for an Innovation on the Range field day put on by a bunch of people here on the screen that you can see. But Tyler's doing a presentation about virtual collars. We're going to go out to the new ranch and check that out in a little bit. But let's go inside and see what's going on.
Great. So yeah, like you said, Tyler Torrie. We're originally from the Grassy Lake area. We've been in Grassy Lake. We celebrated 100 years in 2021. So we've been here for a little while. So this is the Grassy Lake farm and ranch. We do, on this plot of land, we have about 320 head of cattle, 20 bulls. We do all red Angus. So we decided to look into the virtual collars for a couple different reasons. One is just the terrain. We're right on the river, so we have a lot of river cliff hills, a lot of coulees, and then we just have a lot of like sloughs, watering holes, and things like that that just aren't great for cows going down in there and getting stuck or sick and things. And so there's a lot of, I don't know, we've been trying to think of different ways to better manage the cows and how are we going to move them around, how do we keep them out of certain areas, and then just learning about the grants and about these collars, we felt like that could be a really good solution. We have a couple of test collars on the Grassy Lake Ranch, and then the whole herd in Bow Island, which is 120 head of cows there, 118 there, and mixed, but we have all of them on collars, and then we have our bulls and replacement heifers on collars here. Just talking to what Jody was saying about mapping and stuff, this has actually been a really slick tool. It's My Maps from Google, and so you can just design and draw maps everywhere. But yeah, just the My Map Google, is just as a side note, has been really, really slick. So going on to the eShepherd, we just took that file from My Maps and threw it in here, and then you just tweak some of the internal stuff. We've made a lot of mistakes here in the first couple of months. We've learned a lot of ways not to do things, but there's overall, as initial, before we dive into that, it's been really good and we're really excited about it. There's a lot of really cool stuff that we're excited to try. So going over to our first test was in July, and it was with or was it June? I think it was early July, late June, our bulls. So this is our main shop yard here in the corrals. So the bulls, we have this little bull pasture here. Sorry, it's a little bit hard to see. But what we did is you set up this virtual fence here, and we have a physical fence here, but your first 2 weeks or so, you do pretty much a training program where it's pretty simple. It's a straight line, and you want to have fences on 3 sides, and just a virtual fence on one side, and you're just letting them kind of learn the system. So with these collars, what happens is they have a place right here. When they get close to the virtual fence line, it gives them a tone, so it's a sound. So it beeps at them, and then we'll warn them 2-3 times as they're getting closer. If they keep pushing through that line, then we'll give them a shock. The shock goes through the chains here that are tied in and connected here. So sound here, shock here, equivalent to an electric fence. And then after a little while, they get the idea that when I hear a tone, that means don't go that way. And within 2 weeks, at least in some of the initial tests, and Sonia might have some better numbers on it, but you get pretty high acceptance rate where they don't even get shocked anymore. They just know a tone, and then they just don't go there. And so we set this up, and so we did this, I think it was every 3 to 4 days. What we would do is, I'll see if I can show you here. So that was the first one. So we had our water here in the corrals, and so they would come back into water. So we'd do 4 or 5 days, and then we would build a schedule, and it would just automatically open up that next area. And then 4 or 5 days later, it'd open up that next area, and we would just keep staging it. And it was super successful. The bulls, we didn't have a single one that broke through, and it was crazy. The day like they would bounce. It was just funny. You could see the tracks, and you see them just bouncing off the line, and then the day it opens up, boom, they all move into that next area, and they're just bouncing off the line, grazing. Next time it opens. So they would just constantly move to that next area, but they would never break out. And so we had really good luck with it, and it worked great. The other thing is when you're setting up these fences as well, it will give you a alert if you don't have some kind of watering hole in that boundary. So there's a lot of good alerts just to make sure you're not accidentally cutting them off from the water. The other thing that we did, because we imported all of our fence lines in there, you can label each of those pastures, and then you can see, okay, am I building a fence in virtual fence that's crossing over a physical fence where they can't actually cross over, but I'm trying to push them through certain areas. It's good just to visualize it. One mistake that we did make is that we had the virtual fence on. We went to shut it off, but it takes about 20 minutes to get to all the collars, but we were trying to move the cows, and you're wondering why the cows won't move, and it's because they're hitting this fence, right? Virtual fence. So it's learning these things, because you just think, oh yeah, we're just go chase the cows, right? And it's like, oh, I didn't turn off the fence, and it causes all kinds of problems, and you're just like cursing, why is this not working? And you're always cursing at cows, so you don't think about it for a while. We'll go over the first major downside that we had, or learning thing that we were having, is because these were the bulls, we decided to switch the chains for slightly longer chains, just for the bulls. They're bigger. We've tested them with the regular chains, and they seem to work just fine. And so we'd probably stick with the regular chains. But we switched all the chains out for these longer ones. But when you loosen these bolts up, when you stick them on, if you don't tighten them on good enough, these will just come out. And the bulls are just a lot more rough on these collars than our heifers or regular cows are. And so these collars got pretty beat up by the bulls. And so we've also sent pictures of these collars to eShepherd, giving them feedback on some of the latching and how it all works. But then for adjusting the collars, so what we usually do, our system is when we have to shoot, the cow comes in, we have two guys, one on either side, and one person on one side has the collar, hands it underneath to the other side, and then two guys, and then just flip it around. We found with one guy, you're trying to hug the cow, and they're fucking, John can tell you that when a cow gets thrown, it doesn't feel so great. And so that's generally collars and running through the system. We're pretty excited because there's just a lot of areas here that we have pretty big sections that are just not being grazed efficiently. And one of the nice things with the system is you can actually see heat maps. So we can see exactly generally where they are grazing. So this is over the last 7 days. This here in the center, this is where the watering hole is. And so that's where you see a lot of the focus of that heat map. You can change the intensity of it. So I can just see yesterday, this is where they were at. Last 30 days, you can see they were in that pasture, moving them in. So you get really good ideas of what's going on, and so you can start adjusting. And that's another one of the big perks is, okay, getting the data to really start making meaningful decisions on what to do and where to be grazing them. The nice thing is now having this calculator, now having the collars, I feel like I've got the resources to now start inputting things, right? And if I'm noticing things that's not quite lining up, I can change the calculations a little bit. But instead of just kind of saying, well, we've always put them in for a month in this section, that's what we're going to kind of do, we can now really kind of break it down and get really honed in. And again, this is rough and I'm still working on it, but it's using those kind of tools together. I think there's a lot of potential for really maximizing the collars and what they can do. And so overall, we're really excited about it. I think there's a lot of really cool things that we can do with it. There's a lot of really exciting potential. Like I said, there's always about 20 ideas in my head about different things we could try and we could do. And I think the technology still has a little ways to go before it's like perfected. But I think it's at a good enough place that it's worth diving in, especially with the grant. And Gallagher was really good to say, you got radio and you got cellular. If you don't like one of them, we'll help you resell it. They won't just buy it back, but they're like, we got lots of people who are interested. We'll help you get it moved on if you want to switch over to another one, or if you really hate it, we'll help you get out of it. And so it felt very low risk for us to just give it a shot and to try it, with most of the costs covered anyway, right? So any other questions? Good. So you act for a pretty good one.
No, that's awesome. This sets us up really good. When you go out there, you'll have a better appreciation of what we're going to see.
So they said it's a 100-liter tank, and they're just filling it up right now. Well, that's a wrap on the day. So yeah, thanks for everybody who participated in that and came out and learned a little bit. Hopefully yeah, you did learn a little bit. And yeah, it's always nice to have things like this locally that you can learn from what your neighbors are doing, and try to